Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened.
That was Trump laying some groundwork for the 2026 midterms when he will, no doubt, attempt to make claims of voter fraud. But it seems the dust has still not settled from his claims of voter fraud surrounding the 2020 election. New revelations have come out thanks to a recent ruling indicating that not all is well over at Fox News, and perhaps it hasn't been for a while. When Fox News was being sued for defamation and for basically lying to its audience repeatedly following the 2020 presidential election, documents were filed as part of the $2.7 billion Smartmatic lawsuit. The documents, which have now been released unredacted, revealed that Jeanine Pirro, former Fox News host and current U.S. Attorney for D.C., thinks that her former Fox News colleague, Sean Hannity, is quote-unquote an egomaniac. And we didn't need unredacted documents to tell us that Hannity was most likely an egomaniac. I feel like most of us probably assumed as much. I feel like even a good chunk of Hannity's own audience would concede that he's probably an egomaniac. You don't get to the position that Hannity's at in life without being at least a little bit egomaniacal. And when I talk about his position in life, I'm not just talking about his ascension to the highest ranks of Fox News host. I'm talking about a man who has cultivated and wielded such influence with the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, that he is now, in many ways, more the president's equal than he is his lackey. It benefits Hannity to be on the president's good side, absolutely, but he also understands that Trump needs to be on his good side. To that point, Pirro said as much in a text message that she sent on October 27th, my birthday, 2020. She recounted an incident where Hannity busted into the Oval Office like he owns the place, throws his papers on the president's desk, and says, "You don't mind if I use your private bathroom?" and walks into the bathroom within the Oval and uses it. Looks at me and says, "I gotta talk to him. It's all about him, period. No one else matters." I mean, honestly, what even is the difference between a guy like Trump and a guy like Hannity? They're like pieces on a game board. You just need some rich white Republican man in several of the highest and most influential positions of power. And make no mistake, Hannity's position as the top Fox News host is absolutely a position of power. And it almost doesn't make a difference who is in which position. Trump came from reality television. He could very easily have been the cable TV host, and Hannity very easily could have been our president. It doesn't really matter. They all tell each other what to do anyway. They all simultaneously fight for each other and against one another, depending on what agenda they're personally trying to push and what outcome they're trying to influence. That said, their end goals are largely the same. They know all the talking points. They know the policies. They know that they want their own money and their own specialness to be preserved. It's not a hard platform to understand or get behind when you're a wealthy white man in the United States. It's protect the rich at all costs. When they're only ever serving their own self-interest, there's not much chance of going off script. But then you also have the non-white men who play very important roles in upholding the current status quo, and that is where you find people like Jeanine Pirro. According to reports, the documents also allege that Pirro was committed to supporting Trump in contravention of the network's policies regarding on-air personalities and political involvement. Pirro told the then chairman of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, in a September 2020 text, "I work so hard for the party across the country. I'm the #1 watch show on all news cable all weekend. I work so hard for the president and party." She really does, and it should be embarrassing for her. Whereas Hannity at least understands that Trump is less of a leader without him, Pirro is Trump's adoring, loyal steward. For Smartmatic, the argument that they were making was that Pirro was sucking up to Trump so that he might pardon her ex-husband, and what do you know, it worked. Albert Pirro was pardoned at the end of Trump's first term. but other text messages suggest that Pirro wasn't just sucking up to Trump with her claims that the election was stolen, she might have actually believed it. Other messages show Pirro decrying censorship at Fox when one episode of her show, Justice with Judge Jeanine, did not air after she was warned by a producer to avoid making further claims of election fraud. In a message to Hannity, Pirro wrote, "I'm tired of the censorship and I'm embarrassed by how they called this election." Pirro later told Hannity that she made several demands of management after the episode was scrapped, to which he responded, "Fox News promoting you every 5 seconds. It's hilarious," suggesting the network was doing so in an attempt to butter her up and mend their relationship. Pirro wasn't the only one, by the way, whose text got released. Maria Bartiromo, an OG election denier, texted Rudy Giuliani just after the 2020 election results were called, saying, "I want you to overturn this." Bret Baier, seeing what was going on with his network and his colleagues, seemed more apprehensive than most over the nature of the election coverage, telling Jay Wallace, "None of this is true as far as we can tell. We need to fact check this crap." Good for you, Bret. Somewhat predictably, though, Jesse Watters was all about his money and his ratings. He had testified under oath that he had seen no evidence of voter fraud, specifically using the Smartmatic voting machines, but he still texted Greg Gutfeld in December 2020 saying, "Think about how incredible our ratings would be if Fox went all in on Stop the Steal." As you saw earlier, Trump is already starting to disparage mail-in voting and electronic voting machines ahead of the 2026 midterms. He's clearly trying to get ahead of things. There was voter fraud in 2020, he said, an election he lost. Not so much in 2024, even though he somehow managed to win every single swing state, which is highly atypical. But going into 2026, probably voter fraud again. He doesn't want to do election audits for 2024, but he's happy to do them for 2020. Also, we know by now that the plan all along was to claim voting was rigged prior to the election so that if and when Trump lost in 2020, he could and would still claim victory. Steve Bannon said that that was the plan, but even without him saying so, it was obvious even at the time what was happening. But somehow people thought that Trump was prophetic for calling something that he was actually enabling and enacting. And if it's not clear to you by now that Trump and Republicans are worried about the 2026 midterms, you're simply not paying attention. Mid-decade gerrymandering, also highly atypical, all those attempts, and Trump's blatant call for 5 more seats in Texas, all of that aside, Trump's approval ratings are historically low. Again, inflation is not better than it was under Biden. Trump's big, beautiful bill has a negative favorability, as low as -22 according to some polls, and a -39-point gap among independents. It's so bad that Republicans are attempting to rename the bill to just trick their base into thinking it's actually a good thing without changing anything in the bill. I really just hope that people are a little bit more savvy this time around. I'm not entirely optimistic, maybe a little bit, but if anything, it has to just be getting stale for people by now, right? All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.